All right, guys. Okay. Uh, so let's continue our lecture, the in the of the skeletal system. So with this one, I'm going to talk to you about how does this bone formed. So bone formation coming from the cartilage. So cartilage and the bones are two large members of the skeletal system. And so those are basically coming from the same source. And before we have the bone, we have this soft cartilage. And so here showing you the example of the bone formation as presented using a long bone. And so you can see that in the beginning is cartilage. So we talk about the cartilage. The primary cell in the cartilage are chondrocytes. So chondrocytes will secrete this um, uh, matrix formation like collagens, uh, glycoprotein, proteoglycans. So a lot of this matrix material, but they are soft. So cells can freely move around. They can migrate around and continue secrete this collagen hyaluronic acids, those proteoglycans, and so they form this cartilage. And this cartilage is that's before we have the bone. So in the babies inside of the mothers, they will start by forming this cartilage as a temporary structure. And so this cartilage is called cartilage model. Later, it will become bone. And so cartilage will then become hardening, and the procedure to become hardening, the hardening is called ossification. So that's the terminology. Mineralize attached to it, ossification, making it hardening. And and for long bone, this process is called endochondral ossification because it's endo means like inside of the chondral means like chondrocytes, but it's not chondrocytes, it's cartilage. So it used the cartilage uh, model to to become the bone. So the quick question could be that what is the process for long bone formation is called endochondral ossification. So that's a process. This process has a terminology, endochondral ossification. And so when this cartilage is ready to become bone, then it will start form the ossification center. So here we have the primary ossification center in the central of this long bone. And with this one, you will have blood coming in. Usually cartilage is it doesn't have the blood circulation, but with this one, it start have blood coming in. When you have the blood coming in, you bring in osteocytes, osteoblast, the bone cells. So bone cells will come in. Bone cells will start to uh, deposit the mineral. So it become the ossification. So in the center, it will become hardening. It will become mineralized. It will become hardening. This one will be the beginning of the bone. And it will start to migrate over the osteoblast. It will migrate over and secrete this mineral, uh, uh, calcium, etc., hardening these tissues and then become bones. In the same time, the chondrocytes will continue to secrete the cartilage, and so cartilage can actually expand, getting longer and longer, but the center portion will, once they become longer, the center will become hardened, center will become like mineralized, very much like yeah, and then the peripheral is keep on growing. Peripheral like two ends will keep on growing. The center will be hardening, and two ends keep on pushing to two ends. So that's that. So and so that is the progress. Um, Later we will have another ossification centers. So it's called the secondary ossification center. That is enter into the two ends of this long bone. And so you can see that blood vessel coming in. When blood vessel coming in, it brings in the osteoblast, and osteoblast will secrete this mineral stuff to hardening it. So you can see that bone growing is that in the beginning it's coming from the center, and the hardening kind of the migrate, kind of like a contamination, like across the center portion toward two ends. In the same time, the chondrocytes, the cartilage keep on growing to both ends, so long it's getting longer and longer, but the center is hardening. Once it's hardening, it's fixed. But the soft portion, the cartilage portion, can keep on growing. And from the two ends, it also start to hardening. So that's called the secondary ossification center become hardening, and the two will meet in one area. This is called the epiphyseal plate. And so that's that. So that's how we grow. And so you can kind of imagine that in the beginning it's all cartilage. In the end, you will have a bone, but in the peripheral, in the uh, endos endosteum and the periosteum, the peripheral, the inner membrane, the peripheral membrane, the end we have the cartilage, articular cartilage, and the other end we also have articular cartilage. So cartilage getting pushing into the peripheral, but the center become all hardening. So that is how we grow our bone. So so this one summarize all these procedures of the long bone growing. First, you need to know the name of this procedure. The name of this procedure is called endochondral ossification. Endochondral ossification, and that's how we describe this long bone lengthening, basically growing or formation. This one involve in the beginning the cartilage model. So here is cartilage muscle, cartilage coming from the chondrocytes. And then you have the primary ossification center. That is because blood vessel coming in, it brings in the osteoblast. So capillary blood vessels coming in, and perichondrium, the peripheral of chondrium become the periosteum, and periosteal color develop. So periosteal color is right here. Periosteal color. Let me see that. So I think this is the periosteal color formation. And then primary ossification centers form because of the osteoblasts coming in, and then in the same time it will start to harden where they are located, but the cartilage and the chondrocytes keep on pushing to both ends. Later, we have the secondary ossification develop in two ends, and both central and the secondary, the primary and the secondary will meet in the epiphyseal plate. And these epiphyseal plates will become pushed into like squeezed into just in the end it will be just a line because it was like a plate, but both ends will push on it to it, start to ossification on it, and when the bone grow into the adulthood or early adulthood, then both by that time it will not keep on growing. Your body is not keep on lengthening because your leg coming from these long bones is not keep on lengthening, and so this epithelial plate will just squeeze into just one line, and that's why we have this epiphyseal uh, epiphyseal line. What? Everything good? OK OK OK。Next part is there 的时候，你要有机会看。OK OK OK。And so that's how Dongbao is formed. So what every size has a quiz question. What's a quiz question here? So first of all, you need to know that uh, bone formation start by having the cartilage model. So that's the first thing you need to know. Cartilage model provides something that uh, the um, the osteoblast can mineralize onto it. So that's what you need to know. As for and also the process for long bone is called endochondral ossification. So that's another question. And also the next thing you need to know is that okay, for the long bone we have two ossification center. One is called primary, the other one is called the secondary. Um, so primary and the secondary. And this one can kind of like bring you to connect with what we have learned that long bone has three segments. So we need to know that here, going back to here, long bone has three segments. Diaphysial, diaphysial is formed by the primary ossification. So that's one. And epiphyseal, right here, epiphyseal is formed by the secondary ossification. And so you can see that primary ossification form the compact bone. The secondary ossification form the sponge bone. So so that is something you know you will see in the quiz in the quiz and in the lecture exam. So that's bone formation. So when bone grow, both both the chondrocytes will set the template, and because chondrocyte is can move, so they will move to both end and to present to create more, basically pave the way for osteocytes to come. And so in the end, because we have two ossification center, they will limited the range where these chondrocytes can grow. And in the end, these chondrocytes can only grow in a region called epiphyseal plate. So it's right here. So because we have two ends of this ossification, chondrocytes can only grow in this region called epiphyseal plate. And this epiphyseal plate, they will keep on growing. When they are keep on growing, the bone will keep on lengthening. But when the person reach to the adulthood or early adulthood, then the body cannot keep on growing longer. At that time, the chondrocytes in this region will stop growing, will stop. It's called proliferation. Basically, it's cell division or multiplication, so cell will not keep on producing, and then they will basically just be squeezed by both ends, and it will become just the epiphyseal line. So that's explained in here. So epiphyseal plate is a layer of the hyaline cartilage. It's where we have the long bone growing. That because two ends, the center is osteophyte, hardening. The epiphyseal is also hardening. Only that junction area still have this chondrocytes can grow. The epiphyseal size of the epiphyseal plate cartilage is formed, and on the diaphyseal side, the cartilage is ossified, become hardening. Both ends will be hardening, but the diaphyseal side will become the compact bone basically, and the epiphyseal side will become the sponge bone. And by the adulthood, then the chondrocyte in the epiphyseal plate cease their proliferation. They will not develop or grow anymore. And then bone will replace this cartilage, and the longitudinal growth will stop. Yeah, so that's that. And then we have this. We will not have this plate. Plate will be squeezed into just single line. It's called epiphyseal line. So that epiphyseal line is indication of this bone reach to its adulthood, and it's not be able to grow anymore because you don't have this cartilage anymore. You only see this cartilage in the growing body, but not the uh, adult body. So that's the length. Bone can also grow in width. And so one thing we haven't mentioned is that, okay, while the bone keep on growing to both ends, how about here? What happens here? Where do we make the bone become thickening, wider? And how do bone form this medullary cavity? And so to make it wider and have the change in this medullary cavity area, we need to know that, okay, in addition to the growing, how does it grow in the width? The way it grows in the width is by two cells. So now we don't have the chondrocytes, there's no chondrocytes, there's no cartilage, but how do they grow in width? The way they grow in width is by two cells. One is the osteoclast. Osteoclast will coming into the blood, will bring it into the center, and the osteoclast is a phagocyte, and then it will start to chewing away the aged bone, chewing it away, and so it will create this cavity. So this is osteoclast. They were chewing it away. Those are the original bone. Those are the aged bone. They were chewing it away. In the same time, you also have osteoclast. Osteoclast in the border, you need to know that here in the border we have the cartilage. Here you also have the cartilage. They are the space. They are, even though it's not fluid, but it's not hardening, so cells can move along with it, and the osteoblast can come in and start to hardening on it, and then it can grow in width. Yeah, so that's how it grows in width. This process is called a positional growth. A position means that position. A position is position side by side. Yeah. So a positional growth is that you have the bone and then you grow side by side, growing with. Yeah. So that's how we have this long bone growing in length as well as growing in width. When we have this bone, one thing we also need to know is that um, the bone is very uh, vascularized, meaning that it has abundant blood supply to the tissue. And so bone has compact bone diaphysis and the sponge bone, the epiphyseal and the epiphyseal region and metaphyseal region. So bone has pretty much sealed. And so blood vessel coming in need to enter through it. This opening space for blood vessel to come in is called nutrient foramen. If it's plural, it's called foramina, and it is single is called foramen. And so this foramen is openings allow blood vessel to come in, and then it can nourishing the bone. And you have multiple. You can coming in from the middle. You can coming in from the epiphyseal regions. And so you need to. So what we need to know is that blood is full of blood supply. It's very vascularized. Another thing is that through the same openings, nerve can come in. So what does nerve do? Nerve basically sense, provide some sensory, just like how you can sense your touch, how you can hear, how you can see. Those sensory nerve are also present in the bone. And these sensory nerve are particularly sensitive to the pain. So if there's any injury to the bone, it will be you will be able to sense it because you got sensory nerve distributed throughout your bone to sense your pain. So that's what we need to know. You need to know that bone is very vascularized. It has blood perfused throughout the bone tissue. Yeah. So that's how bone grow and how bone is keep on alive. And yeah, so let's take a break and we will continue um, the next lecture after this break. Yeah.